Hello, Probers. Howdy. Welcome to But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast brought to you by two former MIBs. I'm your host this week, the bestest of best friends, and the king of the street grannies, Granny Moonwalker.
Aye.
And sitting opposite me, as always, is the bearded one, Kevin the Grey. Each week, we bring you a case of the extraterrestrial, and sometimes more, to bring you the truth. Every week, we bring you definitive evidence, sometimes just the words. This week, we'll let you decide whether it's definitive or not once we bust this case right open.
Where's my insult? I don't recall the last time you didn't begin insulting me or being overly nice to then insult me.
The last episode that I hosted, I did not insult you for the entire episode.
Yeah, but you were just trying to put me on edge, which is kind of a sly way of messing with me.
I told you from the start that I was going to be nice, and it wasn't to put you on edge, but that it would put you on edge, because that's the way you think.
Well, now I'm on edge. On its day!
It's not my fault that you don't believe the bestest of best friends when they tell you that they're going to be nice.
And the few best friends anyone can have. Don't know why that just went through my head there. All right, let's hear this definitive evidence then.
Today, we're going back over 40 years.
To watch The Hangover.
Back to 1980.
Before you continue, sorry. Just to let you know, I've made myself a coffee this morning.
Have you added rum to it?
No, but I have made it too hot. I lost count of how many... It's a latte. I lost count of how many goes around on the heating of the milk I'd hit, and I've gone for a third when usually I only do 2 for immediate drinking. It's burnt my tongue! And now I'm just staring at it, and I want it. I want it. I must have it. It's mine. My precious.
Now, I'm unsure on the pronunciation of this name, so I'm just going to pronounce it Myrna.
Myrna.
Yep. Myrna.
Okay.
Myrna. Myrna Hansen.
Bop. Sap-a-doo-up.
And her little boy were heading home.
God, I wish I could remember the names of the people in Hansen, so I could ask if that was the name of the little boy.
I have no idea what their names were.
Was it Hansen Jr.?
They were driving to their home in Eagle Nest, New Mexico, from Oklahoma.
That sounds dangerous.
This is roughly a 9-hour trip. The date is the 5th of May. The day, the time, who the fuck knows?
Clearly not us. 9 hours to drive there. That you'd get across the whole bloody UK in that time.
As they approached a small town by the name of Cimarron.
Sounds tasty.
It's here where things kicked the fuck off. We're in early grey balls. There's your insult. Myrna took a look out of her window and she saw several UFOs over a field. Both she and her boy looked on in sheer fright as they witnessed a tractor beam lift a cow up from the ground.
Oh, shit!
And pull it up onto the craft.
Oh, no!
And then, in a blink, the UFOs had vanished. Disappeared. Gone.
They took the cow.
That means they were no longer there, Kev.
Yes.
There's your second insult. Their car, though, was no longer running. Their engine was off. Wondering what the hell happened, Myrna knew exactly what to do to find out. HRT.
Isn't that some sort of hormone?
Yes, it's not hormone replacement therapy. This is hypnotic regression therapy.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, in my line of work, I deal with quite a few people that are on HRT.
Who have been abducted, have seen a cow get carried away and then their engine cut out.
Maybe, but I haven't spoke to them about it. But today is the first time I've said HRT and thought hypnotic regression therapy. Every time I see that on their forms now, I'm going to just go to hypnotic regression therapy.
So, tell me what happened in your past.
It's going to catch me off guard slightly. I'll be going through medication, then I'll see HRT and I'm like, what? Were you regressed?
What happened to you? Oh, we've got an actual cow abduction. Considering how stereotypical it is for aliens to abduct cows, we don't really encounter it that much. We get cattle mutilation, but I don't recall... I mean, this is the case that's inspired our logo, potentially. Imagine just seeing... I mean, cows are pretty big creatures, aren't they? Just seeing a cow floating through the sky. And they get really... We discussed this before, haven't we? They get really anxious when they're away from their herd and they can just die.
Do you think that you could hear a cow moo in a tractor beam? Is it soundproof?
Yeah, the way it's sucking up the cow is it's sucking up sound waves, but then it's transparent, so it's not sucking up light waves per se. Yeah, I need a science book to answer that one.
During regression therapy, it was revealed that one of the UFOs had turned its attention to Myrna and her son. Both of them were taken aboard the craft via tractor beam.
Mm-hmm.
The creatures they came across upon entering were your typical greys.
Didn't even occur to me to start thinking about the fact that the engine had cut out, so they've clearly had something happen they don't remember.
You are
Welcome
correct.
To the Slab Lab.
Myrna and her sons were victims of a slabbing. Examinations were conducted, assuming, like a normal alien examination, hair, blood, skin, and other samples were taken.
Butt fluff.
Myrna explains that these were cold examinations, like a mortician working on a corpse.
What do they mean by that?
Like a mortician working on a corpse. Kind of cold and calculated, just straight to the point, no words said.
You've got an image in here, and I've got no idea where that's from. It feels very familiar.
So I literally just searched up mortician and corpse, and I think this is from a program called The Mortician.
Okay. It might just be the actor that I recognise.
That I've never seen or heard of. However, was intrigued by.
They conducted examinations. What makes them cold examinations as opposed to standard examinations? That's what I mean. Like a mortician working on the corpse is not moving, it's deceased.
I would say probably in terms of not really paying attention to the fact that this subject is alive. Like they're not talking to them, they're not asking them to do anything.
It's done in a fridge.
They're literally just moving their body where they want to and just taking what they want.
Do we know if they were given anything to subdue them?
Not that we're aware of.
So the Hansens just went along with it. I mean, granted, it's going to be pretty risky to not go along with it, because if you've been abducted, presumably these things are far more advanced than us, and who knows what they could do to you if you are anything but compliant.
Absolutely.
Excuse the pun.
And again, to be fair, we don't know how invasive or painful these examinations were. Like taking a hair sample, did they just pull a couple of hairs, cut some hairs, get your hands, cut a fingernail off, like obviously not the whole nail, but the end, little jab of needle in the arm, take some blood, that kind of thing.
Are you butt compliant?
How so? What is your thought process behind that sentence?
I'm unable to elaborate, I'm afraid.
then I am unable to give you an answer, I'm afraid.
Ooh, you flirt. That's a yes.
He says while wearing a Scissor Me Daddy t-shirt.
Daddy ass, I'll have you know.
I can't see that bottom one. All
I'm
I
a
can see is your shirt
grown-ass
saying
man.
Scissor Me Daddy.
Ass. Look at my ass, Granville. I'm holding my ass for you.
Following this ordeal, they both witnessed a cow being mutilated.
Oh no, poor Daisy.
Completely unsure whether or not this is the same cow from earlier. Now, if it is, then either it was the same UFO that turned its attention to them, or the objects that are grabbed by the tractor beam are transported to the same singular dimension, or they're transported to the mothership. Now, one of the Greys would inform Myrna that the mutilation had to be done.
Before I get onto that, what do you call a Pokemon cow? Mewtwo.
That was awful.
But you might not have got it.
There also is a Pokemon cow, so I don't know. I was like, I've got no idea what it's called. Probably something stupid like Milk Tops or some shit.
So they said that it had to be done.
Had to be done.
They didn't offer their reasoning why it had to be done.
No.
Did they know why it had to be done, or did their superior just tell them to do it and you don't question the superior?
Had to be done.
That doesn't give them...
Sorry. The more we say had to be done, just reminds me of a certain person from school that used to do some shit and then just go, ooh, had to do it. Or had to be done.
Doesn't really give me a lot to work with here. I can't formulate an opinion as to their motivations because all they've given me is that it had to be done. Is it like in their biblical text? Do they have a biblical text that they abide by and it says mutilate cows?
What if it's a form of sustenance?
What, to eat the cow?
Maybe the bones?
But they didn't say they were eating them, they just said they were mutilated.
What if it's a part of their medicine? It's part of their science.
But it had to be done. Yeah. They're not saying that.
Some ingredient from the cow is used as a cure for something or as a drug. High on bovine.
Wouldn't it be weird if, like, aliens, for example, got high on methane? Oh, Jesus Christ, do it again.
That would be very weird.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Can you smell that, Brian? I'm floating. Come along, Tito. Woo.
Myrna would also mention the presence of another being, a tall humanoid figure. This figure was dressed in priest-like attire.
Ooh.
His skin resembled that of someone suffering with severe jaundice. This being would go on to explain to Myrna that their abduction was a complete mistake and that it should not have happened at all.
But it had to be done. Crikey, that is some jaundice. Moving swiftly on. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Moonwalker.
You are welcome.
God, dear.
Shortly after this discussion, the craft landed in the deserts of New Mexico. Myrna and her son were then taken to an elevator and transported to somewhere in the desert.
Through an elevator?
As she looked around, she could see more greys, and it seemed like they were in a base of some kind. These greys were working at different stations, and none of them taking any notice of her. This wouldn't be the most shocking thing. That would be the fact that Myrna would witness humans working alongside the greys in harmony.
Ah, that makes sense.
She soon snapped out of the shock to find that her son was being taken away from her. Mama bear instincts kicked in, and any type of fear or calmness that she had that had kept her together left her instantly. As she ran after him, screaming his name, she would turn into a dimly lit room.
Windmilling.
Within the room were large containers filled with some kind of liquid. Myrna would tentatively look closer, letting out an almighty scream followed by tears, she would fall to the floor due to the horror before her. Human
Jesus Christ.
body parts.
Well, that's disgusting. We have an image of human body parts in jars in the research notes that we probably can't post to our social media at But It Was Aliens, because you can see bits of flesh and bone, particularly in the feet. Well, that's completely shot my trail of thought. Jaundice, leadery, priest-like alien.
Mm-hmm. Steve?
Years and years and years in the future, with all different races banging, having offspring, banging and whatnot, it's possible that all humans are going to end up the same colour in the future, which will solve a lot of shit for some people. What if we are going to turn to like a jaundicey grey? And that's what greys are.
Future humans. So how would you explain the jaundicey yellows?
Oh, this motherfucker was ill. But that's where my mind went.
Okay. Like a melting pot of humans have come together and that's what we become.
Yeah.
Almost like the one race.
What are racists going to do at that point?
Probably something stupid. You've got 4 fingers instead of 5. Rah!
Or they'll become heightist or weightist instead.
Ah.
Yeah, I was thinking as I said that it will stop racists from being racist, but it won't, will it? Because people who are dickheads will just find a way to be a dickhead regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So aliens, and again, my trail of thought, you kind of solved this by the end of the section. I was thinking if you were at work, or you were in the gym, for example, everyone's just working out, people are there working, and a monster just walks through. No one reacts to it. That is such a strange scenario.
Yeah.
But then
something completely, I see what you mean. Like no one turned to even look in her general direction.
But then you slapped on that they're working together. So clearly there's some sort of organisation between these different species.
So yeah, her coming in.
It's just
new
standard to them. But to her, she's windmilling. Oh no, I didn't even think of this. They're not going to take the child to put in a jar, are they? Why are they putting people in jars? Are they harvesting? Have they been taken from live people or deceased people, I guess, is the question. When you were saying it, I was thinking, are they taking the mini Hansen to work with them?
Oh, yeah. And now the jars of body parts, so they're Frankenstein monstering.
Yeah. Are they like cutting bits off people and experimenting or putting them onto themselves if they are indeed future humans? We need a leg. Timmy's ankles hurt. It's all right, guys. I just sprayed it. No, we need a leg.
Human body transplants and aliens. I want to be taller. Add some legs to their legs already, like stilts. The greys that she initially escaped from before her chase would soon find her laying on the floor. There was nothing in her to fight them. They picked her up and took her into another room and would place several devices into her body. This was confirmed in real time by a CAT scan.
What? Oh, the aliens did a CAT scan, not that she had a CAT scan. I got really confused for a second there.
The aliens placed several devices into her body, and in real life, after the event, those devices were proved to have been there via a CAT scan.
Mm-hmm.
Her son was then brought back to her. They were both led to another room and would be subjected to intense flashes of light.
Rave.
Either this was an alien rave or maybe a giant neuralizer. Something Myrna also believes, but something we also have to think about. Is the giant neuralizer here supposed to wipe their memory completely, or enough that you wouldn't be able to recall it without hypnotic regression therapy? And if aliens knew about hypnotic regression therapy and the almighty power that it holds, would they bother using such techniques?
I'm getting sick and tired of seeing the almighty Bobby Lashley in every single episode.
The almighty Bobby Lashley hasn't been in an episode in a while.
I feel like he's been in every episode. I've definitely seen him a lot. Yeah, these images keep on throwing my trail of thought. Where was I?
Looking at Bobby Lashley.
No. So do aliens know about hypnotic regression
About
and its
HRT.
magical powers? Yes. That's a very good question. I mean, there's no evidence that it actually is real, but do they know about it?
Because if their plan was to completely wipe their memory and then go, right, they'll never know about this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, shit, what's this HRT? It can bring back the memories. Then why are we wasting our time wiping them anyway?
Yeah.
Just drop them off and leave.
But then if they wanted them wiped, presumably they would completely wipe them, or they'd like poke a needle in your brain and mush it so that you're never going to be able to...
Lobotomize them.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a polite way to finish that grim sentence. They poke their finger in the head and slush it around.
So I pictured the motion and everything that would happen, but couldn't think of the name of it.
Yeah.
So in my brain, I was just seeing someone having something poked through their eyeball. And I was like, I can't think of the word of this.
This is an interesting concept as well, isn't it? Whether aliens give a damn. Like, why would they care about just offing us once they've done what they need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because we'd like to think that we would be responsible. And some of us, when I say us, I'm talking about as a species, some of us are delicate around particular animals like monkeys, cats and dogs, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But we sure as shit ain't careful if we step on an ant.
it's true. But then,
Life is life, surely.
at the same time, I don't think, unless we're children, I don't think we go out of our way to, like, end ants, unless you have an ant infestation in your house by your door.
Yeah, I
and
go
then
out of my
you
way to
powder.
end them. I'm getting machine guns out, going to war.
But it's not like you see an ant in the street and you go, ant,
Nah,
I'm
well-
going to deliberately step on it.
Some people might,
It's just weird.
especially children.
I did say, if you're not a child. Especially a child with a magnifying glass.
I never messed around with magnifying glasses as a child.
I did for a bit, and then was just like, this takes too long.
I was going to say, did it actually work?
Matches.
Hold on, what's this? A lighter? Woo! I got a new game. It's called Burn Down the Town.
In my room, I used to have a table for my PC, but it was handmade rather than bought. And I used to have a lighter. Never smoked, but had a lighter. And I used to burn things into the table. It's like, fire art.
Crikey. Yeah. I wish I had the skill to make things like just a desk,
You can.
but I don't have that skill. If I started cutting things out, it wouldn't all fit together. It'd just fall down. I'm crap at sort of...
Measuring stuff and then cutting it. Measure 3 times, cut once, and it's still wrong.
Yeah, basically. I'm genuinely terrible at anything to do with building things. It's just not a skill I have. The problem is I can't visualize things. I think in words rather than pictures. Yeah, so I'm just trash at anything like that. I was never good at arts and crafts. I wouldn't even be able to do the lighter art.
I just don't have the patience to build anything. Well, I think I'd be able to do it pretty easily. I just don't have the patience to sit there and do it.
If I built a 4-legged table, it'd end up with like 6 legs and it'd still be wonky. I'd love to be able to build like a bar in our utility room. Just beyond me.
No, that's a project.
That is the long-term plan for that room, but
As long as it's got whiskey on there.
it's going to be a coffee and rum bar. And a little corner for gin.
Gin or Jim?
Both.
Both Myrna and her boy would be led to another craft following their light cleanse, and then they were placed back into their car. Everything that we just heard would be sent over to Kirtland Air Base. This truly piqued their interest because they would go on to confirm that the description of the facility Myrna found herself in is identical to a section of its facility, which is an authorized personnel only section. The Manzano weapons storage.
Get the frick out.
This area housed nuclear weapons.
No way. What? You just dropped a truth bomb on me.
The military would go on to say that there's a real possibility that Myrna hadn't been physically in the room, but that during her ordeal she entered into an altered state and astral projected.
What the hell is the military smoking?
That is all that we have on this case.
They were sucking too much methane.
This is the part of the probe.
Whoa. I'm not ready to move on yet. I need a second to digest that. So she's given the description of the place she was at with the aliens, and it's the exact... How specific was her description? Was she given, like, dimensions? Did she draw a map?
You know all those things that you said you can't do?
Yeah.
Those.
She built a table and a rum bar?
She
rum bar.
visualizes everything in pictures and relayed it to them.
That is a crazy skill.
They were like, I know that room.
How accurate must the descriptions be to be able to say definitively that that's our weapons storage facility?
Not really that accurate.
Well, like, okay.
It's like if I described your living room.
That's exactly what I was about to say to you.
Then you were like,
aliens
that's
took
my
me
living room.
for a front door into a porch and then into a living room. Holy shit, they're describing my house!
But then I would have to describe what was in there.
And that's what I'm saying. Did she describe everything, or was it just the fact she said there's humans and aliens working together? They were like, shit, she's onto us.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, she described everything that was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Down to every hair follicle that was on the floor. Every pube.
The chances of this have got to be pretty slim.
Power of astral projection.
The power of hypnotic regression. Had Hansen ever performed at this base?
To be honest, I have no idea what she does.
We
just know it's her and her son.
So we don't know if she'd ever been there.
And we don't have her son's name.
Hansen Jr. Well, where were the other two sons?
Touring.
I accept your answer.
Then they added Hansen Jr. and then got famous.
They took off.
Now, this is the part of the probe where we would normally turn to science and skepticism. But we're not going there today, as it'll only be our own skepticism.
My favourite type.
So, to summarise, this is the case of Myrna Hansen and her boy, who was travelling home from Oklahoma, an 8 to 9 hour drive to Eagle Nest. They both witnessed several UFOs over a field. They witnessed one of the UFOs use a tractor beam to pick up a cow, and the next thing they knew, the UFOs had vanished and their car was off. Following hypnotic regression, the truth came to light. A UFO had turned its attention to them and pulled them up using a tractor beam. Once aboard the craft, they were subjected to being slabbed. Once slabbed, they witnessed the cow being mutilated.
What do you call a sheep Pokemon? Bulbasaur.
Their captors were greys, but then they met a jaundiced-looking humanoid that told them they were taken by mistake. You just sat there and thought of another one, haven't you?
No.
Bit
I'm just laughing at you trying to breeze past it like it didn't happen.
The craft would then land in the desert, and they vacated the craft and were led elsewhere. Myrna would explain that she saw greys working alongside humans, and then her son was taken from her. She would chase after him and then found herself in a room with liquid containers. The liquid containers housed floating human body parts. She screamed, cried, and fell to the floor. Her captors then found her. After being led to another room and implanted with several devices, her son would be returned to her. They'd be led into a room with intense flashing lights and then returned to their car. The info was passed on to the military, who believed that she didn't physically go into one of the rooms, described as it matched a classified location within the military, but that she astral projected there under duress. So, Greybeard, with all the evidence on deck, do you think this is aliens? Or is it bullshit?
The military are suggesting that they believe in astral projection, is what I'm taking from this case.
Yes.
Where did that claim come from? Have you seen like a quote from a military person, a military paper?
No.
What was our primary source, may I ask? The Diary of Hansen.
Just one source.
Was it Mrs. Hansen?
Yeah.
She claimed that the military said
her story told through others, and what actually piqued my interest in this one is that it had the name of a Dr. Leo fart sprinkle.
He didn't do the
next
regression.
to it. However, there was nothing in the research to say that Dr. Leo fart sprinkle done the regression, and it had no one's name beside it.
You should have lied and said he did, then just said at the end, I'm not entirely sure that it was him, but his photo was in the case. I'd have accepted that. Any excuse to get his little tootin' face in there. Oh, hello. Oh, wow. Well, on that basis, I can't really say that it's aliens, can I?
I mean, you can.
I mean, I'm not saying that it was aliens, but I can't say that it is.
You can.
I'd be lying. I'd be pretty heavily lying. It'd be interesting to know what the motivation for this story is, jokes aside. Like, was she telling it for a laugh? Was she trying to get money from it in some way? Or did she truly believe that this happened because she'd had a misleading regression session? We've discussed before, I believe, that hypnotic regression, part of the issue with it is that it encourages a relaxed state in your mind whereby you start creating things. Doesn't necessarily mean they happened. Do we know that Miss Hansen existed? Okay, over to you, sir. What are your thoughts on this case?
I think it's all bullshit. From the start to the freaking end, I think it's all complete bullshit. To the point where I started getting annoyed as I was covering the case.
Oh, yeah, I've had those ones.
And it just, none of it makes sense whatsoever. None of it is cohesive enough. It jumps from one thing to the next, just trying to put in different
stereotypical elements
of an abduction, from tractor beam to mutilation to like the liquid vials or with the floating body parts in, the slabbing, the injected with something. If we had x-rays or scans of where these devices were within the body, then I would believe it a little bit more. And like you said, the fact that the government said astral projection, I'm going bullshit.
I was going to make a very similar point to you, just saying, if you are lying, slap some detail on that shit. Like, elaborate on why there are people in jars or body parts in jars and whatnot. Don't just put loads of elements together and don't tie them together. If you're lying, you might as well tie them together and make it make more sense.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, I think this is all bullshit.
Yeah. Sadly, so.
Thank you for joining us for this week's probe. You can find us everywhere at But It Was Aliens. That's Insta, Facebook, and Twitter.
On the Twitter!
Also known as X. With Facebook, we have a secret group known as Extraterrestrial Towers, where you can find memes and shit. And over at patreon.com/But It Was Aliens, you can gain access to Side Probes, the paranormal spin-off of But It Was Aliens. We get a little darker and a little dirtier. And all that for less than a small coffee. As always, I have been the bestest of best friends, and he's been the tall one.
There we go.
There's number 3. Remember, the truth is up there.
Hey, number 2.
#,